Welcome back to Lesson 5 of the Before You Build It mini course. In the last lesson, we talked about why HOPE is not a construction budget. We talked about the difference between having a number in your head and having a real project budget. Now, in this lesson, we're going to talk about one of the biggest reasons budgets become confusing in the first place, and that is unclear scope. This is where a lot of property owners fall into what I call the bid trap. The bid trap happens when an owner starts asking contractors for prices before the project is clearly defined. And once that happens, the bids usually come back all over the place. One contractor says one number, another contractor says a completely different number, another contractor gives a price that is much higher or much lower than everyone else, and now the owner is sitting there wondering who is right, who is wrong, is someone overcharging me, is someone giving me a great deal? Which bid should I trust? But here is what I want you to understand. A lot of times, the issue is not just the contractor. The issue is that each contractor may be pricing a different interpretation of the project. So in this lesson, we are going to talk about how to avoid that. One of the most important things I want you to remember is this: you are not always comparing contractors. Many times you are comparing interpretations. That is a big deal, because when owners receive multiple bids, they usually put the final numbers next to each other and compare them as if they were equal. Contractor A, $220,000, contractor B, $285,000, contractor C, $340,000. And naturally, the owner thinks contractor A is cheaper, contractor C is expensive. Maybe contractor B is the safe middle option, but that may not be true. Because before you compare prices, you have to understand what each contractor actually included. One contractor may include more work, another may exclude certain items, one may include realistic allowances, another may include low allowances, one may account for difficult site situations, another may assume everything will be easy, one may include project supervision, another may barely mention it. So those three numbers may not represent the same project. They may represent three different versions of the project. And if you compare them only by price, you may make the wrong decision. Contractors can only price what they understand. That may sound obvious, but this is where many projects start going sideways. If one owner says, I want to remodel the house, or I want to build an ADU, or I want to add a bedroom and bathroom, or I want to update the kitchen, that may be enough to start a conversation, but it is usually not enough to create a reliable price, because the contractor needs to understand the details. What exactly is included? What areas are affected? What level of finish is expected? Are utilities changing? Are walls moving? Are structural changes involved? Are appliances included? Are fixtures included? Is landscaping included? Are permits included? Are there drawings? Are there specifications? Are there known site conditions? What is owner supplied? What is contractor supplied? What is excluded? What is still undecided? If those questions are not answered, the contractor has to fill in the blanks. And different contractors fill in blanks differently. That is why unclear scope creates unclear pricing. Let's slow down and define scope. Scope is not just the general idea of the project. Scope is the written understanding of what work is included, what is excluded, what is assumed, what is undecided, and who is responsible for what. The last part matters, because construction is full of responsibility questions. Who provides the appliances? Who orders the tile? Who pays permit fees? Who handles utility upgrades? Who coordinates inspections? Who provides temporary protection? Who handles debris removal, final cleaning, landscaping repair, material storage, or design revisions? If these things are not defined, everyone starts assuming, and assumptions are expensive. That is why a good scope definition needs to be established before pricing. When you review a contractor bid, there are 4 categories you must understand: inclusions, exclusions, assumptions, and allowances. Let's break those down. Inclusions are what the contractor says is included in the price. This is the work, materials, or services they're agreeing to provide. Exclusions are what is not included. These are items outside the contractor's price. And if those items are still necessary, you need to know how they will be handled. Assumptions are what the contractor is basing the price on. For example, they may assume the existing electrical system is adequate. They may assume there is no hidden water damage, or assume there is normal site access. They may assume the owner will provide certain materials. If the assumption turns out to be wrong, the price may change. Allowances are placeholder amounts. For example, a cabinet allowance, tile, lighting, plumbing fixture. Allowances are common, but if they are too low, your budget may look better than it really is. Those 4 categories tell you a lot about the bid. So you do not just look at the final price, look at what is behind the price. Now, let's talk about the lowest bid. The lowest bid is not automatically bad. Sometimes a contractor is efficient. Sometimes they have strong trade relationships. They may understand the project well. Sometimes they truly can deliver the project for less. But sometimes the lowest bid is low because something is missing. Maybe the contractor did not include certain work. Maybe allowances are too low. Maybe they did not account for risk. Maybe they misunderstood the scope. Maybe supervision is limited. Or they're leaving items vague that will become change orders later. So when you see a low bid, do not automatically reject it, but do not automatically trust it either. Investigate it and ask what is included, what is excluded, what assumptions are being made, are the allowances realistic, what could increase this price later. If the low bid still looks strong after those questions, great. But if the low bid only looks good because it is incomplete, that is not savings, that is risk. The highest bid is not automatically wrong either. Sometimes the higher bid is higher because it includes more. It may include better supervision, more realistic allowances, more complete scope, better trade coordination, higher quality materials, more risk coverage, or more professional project management. Now, that does not mean the highest bid is automatically the best. Sometimes it is simply overpriced, but you should not dismiss it because it is higher. You need to understand why it is higher. Ask, what is included here that others excluded? Are the allowances more realistic? Is the contractor accounting for risks others ignored? Does this proposal include more management or supervision? Is this contractor pricing the project more completely? Sometimes the high bid reveals the true cost of the project more honestly than the lower bids. Not always, but sometimes. That is why comparison requires deeper review. A lot of owners naturally gravitate towards the middle bid. It feels safer emotionally, not too low, not too high, but the middle bid is not automatically the right choice. It may still have gaps, unclear exclusions, low allowances. It may still be based on assumptions that need to be clarified. The middle number can feel comfortable, but comfort is not the same as clarity. You should choose based on understanding, not emotion. The best bid is the clearest path to the project you actually want to build. That may be the low bid, that may be the middle bid, that may be the higher bid, but you will not know until you understand what each one really includes. One way to compare bids more intelligently is to normalize them. That means you adjust the bids so you can compare them more fairly. For example, let's say contractor A gives you a bid for $220,000. Contractor B gives you one for $285,000, and contractor C gives you a bid for $340,000. At first, contractor A looks cheapest, but then you realize contractor A excludes appliances, permit fees, landscaping, and utility upgrades. Contractor B includes appliances, but excludes landscaping and utility upgrades. Contractor C includes appliances, permit coordination, more realistic allowances, and a landscaping allowance. Now you need to add back the items that are still required. Once you add those missing items, contractor A may no longer be as cheap as it looked. That is normalization. You're trying to compare the real project cost, not just the base bid. This is one of the smartest things owners can do before choosing a contractor. The bidding process is not just about the contractor giving you a number. It is also an interview. You're learning how they communicate, how organized they are, how clearly they explain things, how they handle questions, whether they identify risks, whether they listen, whether they pressure you, whether they document details or have a process. Pay close attention to this, because the way a contractor communicates before they are hired often tells you a lot about how they will communicate after they're hired. If they are vague now, that may continue later or get worse. If they avoid questions now, they may continue later. If they pressure you now, that may continue later. If they communicate clearly now, that is a good sign. The bid is not just a price, it is a preview of the working relationship. Before accepting any contractor bid, ask questions like, what exactly is included? What is excluded? What assumptions are built into this price? What allowances are included? Are those allowances realistic for my finish level? What could increase the price later? What could delay this schedule? How do you handle change orders? Will you supervise the project? How often will I receive updates? What risk do you see in this project? Have you done similar projects before? And I repeat these several times because they are very important. These questions do not make you difficult, they make you responsible. A good contractor should be able to answer reasonable questions clearly, and if they cannot, that tells you something. The main takeaway from this lesson is this: before you compare contractor bids, make sure you understand what each contractor is actually pricing. Do not compare only final numbers, compare scope, compare inclusions, exclusions, assumptions, allowances, compare communication, compare process, risk. Because you are not always comparing contractors, many times you are comparing interpretations, and the clearer you make the project before bidding, the more useful the bids become. Before you move to the next lesson, I want you to create a simple one-page scope summary for your project. Write it down. What is included? What is excluded? What is undecided? What materials or finishes are expected? What is owner supplied? What is contractor supplied? What assumptions need to be clarified? If you already have bids, review each one and mark inclusions, exclusions, assumptions, allowances. This will help you see whether the bids are actually comparable. In the next lesson, we're going to talk about choosing the right contractor, because once you understand the bids, the next question is not just who is the cheapest. The better question is, who is the right fit for this project? I'll see you in lesson 6.